friends, and welcome to Sustainable Prepping, your home for fear-free emergency preparedness and a sustainable life. My name is Brecky, and today we are talking about how routines are a prep and you should be doing them. Friends, we are nearly at the end of Vlogmas, and it has been so much fun to be making videos every single day for you through Christmas. Wow, what a journey we've been on. How many topics have we covered, and how many new community members have we gained through this? For everybody that's new, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. For everybody who has been here this whole time, who has seen me from the genesis of my tiny little channel, thank you for coming back. I hope that these have been fun glimpses into my mindset, my practice, and my daily life. Now, today I want to talk about something that, for me, overlaps all three of my main foci for this channel. That is emergency preparedness, homesteading and sustainable living, and feminist homemaking, which is sort of a new addition. And that is routines. Routines should be seen absolutely as a part of all three of these: your emergency preparedness, your sustainable living and homesteading, and your feminist homemaking. Research shows us that when we're in high stress situations, we fall back on our most ingrained habits and routines. You're not going to magically create more discipline. You're not going to magically ascend to becoming superhero emergency preparedness homesteader. You are going to fall back on to the most comfortable, ingrained, and familiar routines and habits. Now, as a lot of us are beginning to look at 2023 and what habits and routines and resolutions we might be making to better ourselves and to better our local communities, it's important for us to think about our routines as a part of our emergency preparedness plan. Now, it might not be as sexy as your fire safety plan. It might not feel as good as putting together food storage, but having a really solid routine means that when there's a disruption on the outside, you have a way of maintaining calm on the inside. Now, routines don't have to be these huge, elaborate things that you have to write out and memorize, right? We all have routines. Even people like me who are naturally not routine people, we have routines and rituals that we do every day. You brush your teeth every day. I hope you brush your teeth. Y'all should be brushing your teeth and flossing. That's for emergency preparedness too. You can't eat food if your teeth are rotten. All right? All right. You wash your face at night. You put on your pajamas a particular way. Maybe you wake up and you have that first cup of coffee in a particular set of steps. Whatever it is, most of us have routines around waking up, going to bed, maybe a little bit of cleaning throughout the day, maybe picking up the kids from school. There are patterns to our days, and having thoughtful patterns that we have instilled with extra meaning, patterns that we have created for ourselves rather than simply us responding to stimuli, are going to serve us a lot better. So when I talk about routines as an emergency preparedness prep, what do I really mean? Because yes, brushing your teeth is a prep because we don't want them to fall out of our head. But does that really count here when I'm talking about routines? Well, I want us to look at some major overarching routines that you can begin to develop for yourself with intentionality. You likely already do this, but if you start practicing it with intentionality so that it becomes your default setting, when we have that emergency, you're not having to think through, do I have a routine for this? What do I do in this instance? A lot of it is already ingrained. So one of them, and I think it's the least sexy of all, but I'm going to keep harping on it on this channel, and that is a cleaning routine. And listen, fellas, those of you who are watching my channel and you identify in the masculine persuasion, cleaning is not a woman's job. Cleaning is for men too. We don't want pests. You don't want rodents in your food storage. You don't want bugs in your food storage. We do not want to attract critters to our homes, our food storage, our waste deposits. Like, we do not want that. So regular cleaning now means that when there's no Orkin man to call to spray your house, okay, when there's massive natural disasters that could be shaking up the natural wildlife who might be interested in sniffing out some crumbs, sniffing out some food, your house won't be as inviting. We want to have those routines in place. We want to know that we know what we're doing, right? And we're not just responding to infestations after they've happened. So cleaning, regular cleaning, both getting on schedules for daily cleaning, weekly cleaning, monthly and seasonally cleaning. Oh yes, those are all things we should all be doing. Those are the sorts of routines that can actually really help us prevent things like pest infestations, manage our food storage so that we're not letting it go and then all of a sudden, oh no, something wasn't stored right, and now weevils have gotten into and destroyed multiple buckets of things, which is a prepper's worst nightmare, right? But that's the kind of thing where routines of every Friday I walk through my food storage room or whatever becomes useful. Another routine is dealing with food waste. Now, this might come under cleaning for some people, but it is definitely a routine. What do you do with food? Do you have a dedicated composter? How do you deal with meat and dairy? Do you have a way of taking food waste away from your home, particularly if that garbage can is no longer a safe place to put it because the garbage isn't being picked up? Thinking about those routines and having in mind in a part of your emergency plan how you're going to augment them means when you have to augment them, boom, it's already been decided. You're not having to figure it out on the fly when you're responding to the emergency. Dealing with washing, both of clothing, of people, of pets, of gear and stuff. How often do you bathe and what do you do and how can you make that more efficient? It might not be what you do always, but thinking about your routine consciously of, well, in an emergency, we're going to have to change this. What would we need to continue having regular bathing is important. How much laundry do you do? Are you once a week kinds of people? Are you everyday kinds of people? What kind of routine do you have? What do you need to maintain that routine? These are important. Even if you ultimately aren't changing anything, you're merely observing your own routines, knowing what you do, and adding some conscious effort to them may help you maximize efficiency. It may help you create contingency plans for if your modern technology is no longer available, like a washing machine. These are just really helpful ways of seeing what you already do, maximizing it, and creating better habits if you realize that your routines aren't very good right now. Another routine that you can start practicing is cooking from scratch. If you're someone who wants to move towards a more scratch cooking way of life and a more homemade and handmade way of life, are you going to do things like have a bread baking day? In the kind of pre-industrial world, having a bread baking day once or twice a week was very normal. You might bake a bunch of bread on Monday and then again on Thursday. You might bake on Tuesday for the whole week, and whatever you have is what you have. It just kind of depends. Getting into some weekly flows. Do you meal prep on Mondays? Do you meal prep on Fridays? Do you meal prep on Sundays? Do you, make a giant thing of rice to hold you for 3 or 4 days? Do you make one big vat of oatmeal that we just add to every morning? Thinking about those sorts of routines, practicing them, even if you decide that that's not what you want to do every single morning, but you know how to do it and you've gotten comfortable with it, that will be helpful when we are leaning back into those habits, leaning back into those routines, those things that are familiar in the midst of a crisis. Finally, another routine that I think is important for everyone and is overlooked, and I overlook it, I admit this, and that is creating space for habits of heart and mind. If you're a person who is religious, do you pray? Do you have a regular prayer life or interaction with sacred texts or sacred worship that isn't corporate? So this is separate from when you go to church or synagogue or a mosque or to a meditation center and you're joining with other worshipers. We're talking about a personal, reflective, prayerful practice. And if you're not religious, if you're secular, do you have a meditation practice? This is key because in an emergency, we're going to be challenged and we may end up in our limbic system, that lizard brain, that instinctive, merely reactive space. But if we have the habits of prayer, meditation, self reflection, being able to self soothe and calm, we'll be able to move out of that instinctive, emotional, highly reactive space where we can't do higher order thinking skills and move back into that higher brain, right? That more evolved brain that can look more critically at what's going on. Having a practice, a habit, a routine of prayer or meditation or self reflective journaling, something that can ground you, that can center you, and that can offer you calm when everything else is not calm is going to be essential to preparedness. And these are all different kinds of routines. They're vastly different. They touch on all the major aspects of our lives. And if we have them ingrained and if they've become comfortable for us, they will be tools to serve us when the world feels like it's spinning out of control. Now, let's not forget some other routines that we may not actually continue once there's an emergency, but we might need to prepare us for an emergency. And that's things like healthy eating, working out, having our stretching routine. Listen, I'll be the first person to tell you that I don't keep a really good routine. I did for a few months and then I got out of it, and now I got to get back into it. But as we're looking towards 2023 and all those New Year's resolutions, consider your health routines, whether it's making sure you get enough fruits and vegetables, whether it's making sure that you move more, stretch more, get more exercise, do more muscle strength training, whatever it is, that those routines, you can consider them a prep. If you are struggling to do them, but you care about preparedness, consider them a prep. Literally, you are your best prep. So, how can we incorporate those healthy lifestyle routines into our everyday as a part of our emergency preparedness? Routines may seem abstract, and this whole video, you might be going, how is this really going to help me in an emergency? But I want you to think about what would happen in a day if we did have an emergency. Let's say there was a nuclear bomb dropped, and for a moment, we still had the grid on and off. We still had some communications from Washington. You didn't have to evacuate. You had to shelter in place. But you're panicking. You're worried about food storage. There are riots. There are things happening. What do you need to do to keep calm and carry on, right? Well, your brain is going to want to think about, I need to be able to make food for my family. We need to be able to keep ourselves clean to prevent bacterial growth and germs, right? We need to be able to deal with our waste. We need to be able to have a evacuation plan and know where all that stuff is. We need to be able to prevent an outbreak of mold or bacteria or an infestation of bugs or of critters. We need to be able to secure our space and know our space, right? All of these things that you might have in a to-do list. But you want to know something? A lot of that, 50% of what I just rattled off, is stuff you do in some form or fashion already, like cooking and cleaning and bathing and securing your home and dealing with trash. You do that. So practicing those routines now means that when we're in that future crisis, whatever it is, you're not having to spin your wheels figuring out what you need to do. You know what you need to do because you've intentionally cultivated the routines and the habits that will serve you. Friends, I know that this is a little bit more abstract, but I think it's got a lot of practical implications. And if you're here for any one of my three major areas, emergency preparedness, homesteading and sustainable living, or feminist homemaking, I think having good routines and good habits are going to serve you. I'm not telling you what those should be because I don't know your context. I could tell you my entire morning and evening routine, and it may not serve you at all because you don't have small children at home. I could tell you my routine around becoming more of a from scratch cook, and that might not serve you at all because your work schedule and my work schedule are completely different. If you're a nurse that works, 3 days of 10 hours on and then 2 days off, and you have this rotating schedule, a set weekly schedule is never going to work for you. So I want to be mindful that our contexts will absolutely play a part in how we establish our routines, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't establish them. I'd love to know down in the comments, what are you doing to establish mindful routines? What routines and habits do you think will serve you in an emergency? And how are you adding things in? What do you think is missing from your routines and habits? If you'd like to keep this conversation going, you can, of course, meet me down in the comments, or you can look in the description box for links to the Facebook group, and you can join me over on Instagram. This has been so fun, y'all. I am enjoying every single one of these videos and the conversations we're having in the community that we are building. So thank you for showing up. I hope you guys are all doing well. We are nearly done with this season of Vlogmas. And until the next video, happy